Thank you, Ben. Well, I'm just putting my timing on, so I'm on track. Okay, a bit about me. It's a 10-minute show, so I'm not going to talk a lot, but I'm actually end-to-end data engineer working in different areas. And I actually used to live close by to Ben, which is in Denmark. He lives in Germany. But now I moved to last 2 years. I moved to Canada. I'm leading Toronto Data Professional Community. You can read a lot about this. I have a Twitter and blog, so you can reach me. Next, what are you going to cover today? So we're going to refresh our memory a bit traditional SQL because we're going to compare SQL and NoSQL since we're going to talk about NoSQL. So after refreshing our memory, we're going to talk about what is NoSQL, and specifically we'll talk about the MongoDB, and we're going to compare it. So I'm sure you understand this very simple query. What we're doing is getting or selecting some columns from the product table where we put the condition, where condition. So that is it's very simple skills and syntax. Everyone who work with the database, they all know about it. And when it comes to syntax, you can actually categorize in many ways. You can have DDL, DML, other also different category. But when it comes to DDL, you create it's a DDL means data definition language. So when you create your tables, you define a schema, those are the DDL. But when you do joining, inserting, selecting, update, or delete, that's the DML. So as I said, we're going to talk about some feature of SQL. When you do work with SQL, means you have to have well-defined schema. Means think about this table, have the table name, of course, and then you got a column name, and you also have to define the type of the column. So if it's integer, it is varchar. So you have to define that. So well-defined schema is a NoSQL. You have to have anyway. That's the first criteria. The next one, when it's come to SQL, that's your relationship, right? So you work in SQL. You cannot think working or building any solution without having properly do the normalization or make the relationship correct. Given an example, bit of what is relationship. So think about this table here, customer. Customer table can hold name, email address, whatever. There's a lot of information you can put in the customer table. And also think about you have information related to product. Still, this customer table and the product table will not give you clear picture business-wise, because it has the customer, it has product, that's fine. But what is next means to tell the story. To tell the story about this customer, you need to have relationship table, breeze table, or here, for example, order table. It may have more columns, just to give you one example, how that actually translates to the relationship. For example, here in the breeze table, we get a 2 as the number of customer ID. We come here, we see that is our customer name, Anderson. And then we also see the product ID as a 1, which is mountain bike, and it's got the price. So it means if someone write a query and they can join this 3 table and can translate as a meaningful result saying, okay, Anderson got a mountain bike which costs 2,500 euros or dollar, whatever. So that's the reason you need to have the relationship when you work with SQL. When it's come to the relationship, we know you got a one-to-one relationship, one-to-many relationship, and many-to-many. So given an example here, one school will have only one head teacher. You cannot have more than one head teacher. Also, school may have many teachers, or will have many teachers. So that is one-to-many relationship. And when it's come to many-to-many, is think about any school, a student can take different subject or lesson like physics, chemistry, math, but the same physics actually can be taken by many students. So that is like many-to-many relationship. Okay, we talk about enough with SQL. I'm sure you already knew this, the simple stuff. Now let's talk about the NoSQL, because when I get introduced with it, I thought, okay, NoSQL, what is this? This is not SQL or something? Actually, it's rather opposite. Means it's not only SQL. So whatever SQL can do, NoSQL can database do the same things, even can do more. Here I have listed down some of the vendor who have their NoSQL database. For example, MongoDB is a popular one. It's open source. Then Azure got it, Azure Cosmos DB, Amazon have it, Oracle, Google, they all have their NoSQL database. This is becoming very popular. MongoDB, well, MongoDB, this Mongo is the word, it's come from humongous. And MongoDB became popular from 2015 when it came or appeared in Gartner Magic Quadrant. At that time, probably, it was using maybe traditional application development. Now it's more also popular in the big data landscape. Now we're going to call them, I'm going to say, okay, how we call them, because it's a bit different than what you call in SQL, but in the NoSQL world. Database name, that remains same. We still call it NoSQL, but in NoSQL, it's still called database. But think about whatever we call as a table, in NoSQL, we call that as a collection. And MongoDB being as a document database, because NoSQL can have different type of database as well. They call, the record inside the table or the collection in NoSQL, that's called documents. So instead of, say, table, you got the collection, you call NoSQL collection, and instead of the records, you call it the documents. And first attribute, if you remember, we talked about in SQL that you need to have a well-defined schema, but here you really don't need to have well-defined schema. Means if you look at this example, think about this as a collection where you got ID, name, and sex, and maybe more columns. But look at this second record, you got ID, name, and sex. This don't think like if you're coming from SQL, you may think this is null or something. No, actually this attributes that are columns, it's not there at all. So it could happen one record have like 5 columns, the next record may have only 2 columns, for example. Even think about this, it doesn't have name or any other columns. It just has, one column with the sex, but it's a bad data. I mean, it doesn't make any sense just having one attribute where it doesn't have anything else. But, sometime in database, you may have bad record just to show you. So you don't have to have a well-defined or a schema. Next one is the relationship. For example, if we look at NoSQL, in SQL, you saw there was a relationship you need to have, but here you don't need to have the relationship. On the left side, I put here just to show you if NoSQL had to have the relationship, how you make that on the left side. So it means you have users, you have the professions, and then you have to have the brief table to actually translate anything. For example, name is a Tom Hanks, and this is a profession. If you come in the brief table, so Tom Hanks, his profession is developer, so he is a developer. And even if you look at the second record, is Tom Hanks professionally too? He's a data engineer. But that's actually if NoSQL have very similar kind of relationship with SQL, you have to build like this. But see, look at the right side. You don't have to build those kind of relationship in NoSQL. So it's like, ID, name, as age, whatever you have, and then you could have that profession as embedded inside the main collection. So that's called embedded. You don't need to have the relationship in NoSQL. And you have many to, I just put it here because I'm going to share this PPT with you so that you'll find out about all the different tools. If you would like to work with MongoDB, I prefer to work with the Robo 3T, which is clean and easy to start with. It supports many different languages, Mongo Shell, Python, Java, C#, if you're not from SQL database, you still can work with different languages. Well, I've been working with SQL, so it is okay to work it, but don't worry, if you're not from SQL background, still you can work with NoSQL. Now, what software we talk about? So we talk about data in SQL. You need to have a schema. NoSQL you don't need to have, but if you want, you can still have the schema. That's the reason it's called schema agnostic. And you need to mention the relationship. You don't need to have a relationship there. Data distributed in multiple tables. You see here you don't need. Yeah, that's it. I'm not sure if I spend more than, because my clock was disappear. Oh yeah, I took a few extra minutes. I'm done here. Thank you.